the enchanted candy cottage, and the endless forest adventures. In the heart of the whispering woods, where every tree seemed to hold a secret and each trail was a mystery waiting to unfold, stood a little cottage that was the stuff of dreams. It wasn't an ordinary home. It was the enchanted candy cottage. The walls were made of the finest chocolate, thick and creamy, smelling of rich cocoa and warming under the sunlight. The roof was layered with caramel tiles that glistened like gold in the daylight, and a candy cane chimney twisted up from the roof, puffing out the sweet scent of peppermint smoke. Every inch of this magical house was crafted with care and imagination. The window frames were woven from twisted licorice ropes, and bright gumdrops decorated the walls like shining jewels. The front door was a giant gingerbread cookie with intricate icing swirls and sprinkled sugar crystals that caught the sunlight and made the whole cottage sparkle. Every time the wind blew through the candy trees around the cottage, the air filled with the delicious aroma of sugar and chocolate, drawing in the curious animals of the forest and the occasional passerby. Inside this marvelous cottage lived a young girl named Ellie, with sparkling eyes, a big heart, and a knack for magic. Ellie was no ordinary child. She had the special ability to make candies and sweets appear with just a snap of her fingers. Living with her was her best friend, a mischievous squirrel named Nutmeg, who loved to nibble on the cottage, especially the jelly bean windows, which were his favorite. Nutmeg was small, clever, and always full of energy, darting around with his fluffy tail and finding the best hiding spots for his little snacks. Ellie and Nutmeg had everything they could ever dream of, but their lives took an unexpected turn one winter's night. It was late, and the moon hung high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the cottage. Ellie had just gone to bed when she heard a soft, curious crunching sound. She peeked out the window to see a small fuzzy creature with marshmallow-like fur and licorice legs, happily munching on the chocolate walls of her cottage. The creature introduced himself as Crispin, a candy sprite born from sugar, playfulness, and a love of sweets. Crispin had big, round eyes and a grin as wide as a caramel slice. Ellie could see that Crispin meant no harm, but she knew her cottage couldn't survive his sweet tooth, so she offered Crispin a deal. He could stay and share the sweets, but he'd have to help her protect and rebuild the house. Crispin agreed, delighted at the thought of a cozy home and new friends, and from that day on the three were inseparable. With Crispin's marshmallow magic, Nutmeg's cleverness, and Ellie's kind heart, the cottage became even more enchanting. They built peppermint candy cane pillars, strung twinkling spun sugar vines along the roof, and created a gingerbread pathway that wound around the house. The garden soon became a wonderland filled with sugar lilies and gummy bears as big as Ellie's hand. Even the trees nearby seemed to join in, sprouting lollipop blooms that glistened in the morning dew. One day, while exploring the nearby forest, Ellie and Nutmeg came across a group of lost children who had wandered off the main trail. The children looked cold and frightened, so Ellie took them back to the cottage, where Crispin prepared a feast of warm, gooey caramel soup, honeycomb biscuits, and marshmallow pillows to sit on. Nutmeg performed little tricks, flipping through the air and doing funny dances that made the children laugh and feel at home. As word spread about the cottage, more and more visitors began arriving. Some were travelers who had lost their way, while others were curious animals drawn by the magical scent of chocolate and caramel that seemed to float through the entire forest. Among the regular visitors were two little foxes, Luna and Willow, who brought tales of distant lands, and a family of chipmunks who became regular guests for afternoon tea. Each season brought new adventures and surprises, In the spring, they created a sugar pond where jellyfish-shaped gummy fish swam under the surface, their candy fins catching the sunlight. Nutmeg crafted little boats from peanut shells so they could all sail across, discovering hidden candy islands made of rock candy crystals and sprinkled with powdered sugar. Summer arrived and the trio built a lemonade fountain, surrounded by sherbet grass, where creatures could come to cool off and play in the sweet mist. Autumn brought a different magic. The candy trees around the cottage turned brilliant shades of orange and red, and Ellie and Crispin crafted toffee apples and caramel popcorn for all the visitors. Nutmeg found tiny pumpkin-shaped candies hidden among the leaves and set up a treasure hunt for the young animals of the forest. Together they laughed, played, and feasted on pumpkin pie tarts and maple syrup drops that Ellie conjured with her magic. But one winter, a powerful snowstorm swept through the Whispering Woods, colder and fiercer than any Ellie had ever seen. The winds howled, shaking the candy trees, and the chocolate walls of the cottage grew brittle in the freezing air. Fearing the worst, Ellie and her friends knew they had to protect their magical home. Crispin worked his marshmallow magic to create a thick, sticky frosting layer to insulate the walls. Nutmeg gathered gumdrop stones to secure the foundation, while Ellie conjured a sugar crystal dome that covered the cottage, sparkling like diamonds in the moonlight. The storm raged for 3 days and 3 nights, but the cottage stood firm, a beacon of warmth in the frozen forest. When the storm finally passed, the animals and forest creatures emerged to see the cottage shining brighter than ever, its sugar crystal dome glistening in the sunlight. The creatures cheered, and Ellie, Nutmeg, and Crispin welcomed them inside for a grand celebration. As the years passed, Ellie's candy cottage continued to be a place of warmth, magic, and friendship. Visitors from all over the forest and beyond came to marvel at the sweet home and the kindness of the little girl, the clever squirrel, and the cheerful candy sprite who lived there. They left with happy hearts, bellies full of sweets, and memories of a magical place they'd never forget. To this day, it's said that if you wander into the Whispering Woods and follow the sweet scent of chocolate and peppermint, you just might find the enchanted candy cottage, where friendship, kindness, and endless sweet adventures await.